Have you ever felt that someone was trying to hide their feelings for you? Emotions they couldn't express verbally, yet still revealed through subtle signs that most people miss? In silence, many truths bloom. In stillness, many wars unfold. Unseen, unheard, but deeply felt. Zen philosophy teaches us, the tighter you cling, the more you suffer. The more you resist, the deeper the struggle. Someone secretly fighting their feelings carries an invisible burden, the battle between the longing for connection and the fear of vulnerability. I remember the story of Maya, a friend who missed all the signs from her colleague for an entire year. The avoidant glances, unexpected helpful gestures, sudden withdrawal after moments of joy. Only when that colleague moved away did she recognize all those signs. By then, it was too late. Today, you'll discover 7 subtle signs from Zen and Buddhist wisdom that help you recognize when someone is fighting their feelings for you. Small signs, subtle signs, signs that to the untrained seem like nothing. But to one walking the path of awareness, they reveal an entire inner storm. Zen and Buddhist philosophy has understood the nature of human emotions deeply for thousands of years. While modern psychology is just beginning to explore the complexity of unspoken emotions, Zen monks have been observing and recording these subtle signs for centuries. Why do some people fight their feelings? There are many reasons: fear of rejection, wounds from the past, bad timing, or the belief they don't deserve your affection. But whatever the reason, their inner struggle always leaves traces, signs we can learn to recognize. Imagine an ancient monastery where a young monk and a traveler meet. This story will take us through 7 signs, each a window into the soul of someone fighting their feelings. But before we begin, remember that the purpose of recognizing these signs isn't manipulation or pressure. It's to develop deeper understanding, to respond with compassion, and to create a safe space for authentic emotion to emerge when the time is right. We'll explore 7 subtle signs, each illustrated through story and explained from the Zen and Buddhist perspective. And most importantly, you'll learn how to respond to each sign mindfully and compassionately. Let's begin our journey through the garden of silence, where words are few but meanings are vast. The first sign, the gaze that looks away too quickly. In the monastery of moss and light, an old monk once said, "That which is avoided is often that which is most desired." This saying contains a profound truth about human nature. The young monk in our story would often pretend to be busy with tasks whenever the traveler approached. He would sweep areas already swept clean, arrange stones that needed no moving. But most noticeable were his eyes. They would dart, briefly meeting the traveler's gaze, then fleeing like startled deer. According to Zen, the eyes are not windows. They are rivers. They flow with what the mouth dares not say. The first sign of hidden emotion lies in the eyes, not when they linger, but when they flee. One who secretly fights emotion often finds eye contact unbearable, for in a single gaze, their inner truth risks exposure. But why does the gaze retreat? Because to look fully is to confess. And in that confession lies vulnerability. When we look into another's eyes, we open the door to our soul. For someone hiding emotions, this is too great a risk. Modern psychology confirms this. Research shows we avoid eye contact when feeling vulnerable or when emotions are too intense. It's an instinctive reaction to protect ourselves. How to recognize this sign in everyday life. Notice the person who always finds ways to look elsewhere when you catch their gaze. The one who seems strangely busy whenever you appear. The one who can comfortably look into others' eyes, but with you, they cannot. Zen teaches us not to chase eyes, but to observe them without forcing, for even avoidance is a form of attention. When you recognize this sign, respond by respecting their space. Don't force eye contact. Instead, create a safe space where they can gradually feel more comfortable. Remember, when someone avoids your eyes, don't ask what they're hiding. Ask what pain their silence protects. To see with wisdom is to see the armor, not to pierce it. The second sign, unspoken kindness. Kindness is ordinary, but hidden kindness is rare. It's the difference between water flowing naturally and a secret stream running beneath the ground. In our story, the traveler once slipped and twisted a foot upon the forest steps. The monks nearby ran to help, but the one who usually avoided the traveler rushed faster than all others. With trembling hands, he supported the traveler's weight and said nothing. Not a word of concern, not a smile, not a gesture. But when the traveler left, this monk spent the evening alone, seated beneath the plum tree, unmoving, unblinking. Zen sees silence not as absence, but presence. The second sign is subtle protection, quiet care, and unsolicited service done without announcement or expectation. This kindness carries no label and no confession, but it carries intention woven in secrecy. Why does someone offer such help if not to draw closer? Because love, even when denied, must express itself. It leaks out as service. Buddhism calls this karuna, compassion born of shared existence. But when compassion targets one's soul again and again, it reveals more than just mercy. It reveals a storm restrained. Modern psychology calls this the love language of acts of service. When someone cannot or dares not express their emotions verbally, they often turn to action. They find ways to help, support, or make your life easier in subtle ways. How to recognize this sign? Notice the person who's always ready to help you, even when you don't ask. The one who remembers small details about what you need or like. The one who seems to appear just when you need help, as if they've been watching from afar. When you recognize this sign, respond with genuine gratitude. Acknowledge their action without making them uncomfortable. A simple thank you, a warm smile might be enough. Don't pressure them to explain their motives, as this might cause them to withdraw. Remember, in Buddhism, metta, loving kindness, often travels unnoticed. It wraps itself in action, not confession. A small act done many times reveals a heart already devoted. The third sign, sudden distance after warmth. The human heart, when frightened by its own warmth, often retreats into cold. This is one of the deepest paradoxes of human emotion. One afternoon, the monk and traveler shared a moment of laughter. It was a rare moment, like sunlight piercing storm clouds. But the next day, the monk would not come out of his chamber. Days passed in silence, and when he reappeared, his voice had lost warmth. His tone had become formal again, almost distant. This is the third sign, withdrawal after closeness. Zen describes this as the backlash of awakening. When the heart accidentally opens and realizes the danger of attachment, it instinctively pulls back. It is not hatred. It is not disinterest. It is a silent war within. The battle between longing and letting go. The one who fights feelings does not hate you. They fear the intensity of what they feel. Modern psychology calls this the withdrawal response, a common defense mechanism when emotions become too intense. Research on attachment patterns shows that people with anxious or avoidant attachment styles are particularly prone to this reaction. How to recognize this sign? Notice the sudden change in how someone interacts with you after a moment of special connection. It might be after a deep conversation, a meaningful shared experience, or even just a moment of intimate laughter. If they suddenly become distant, less communicative, or even avoid you completely, this might be the sign. When you recognize this sign, it's important not to take it personally. This isn't about you. It's about their inner struggle. Respond with patience and non-judgment. Respect their distance without completely withdrawing. Let them know you're still there, but without pressure. Zen reminds us that to awaken suddenly is to tremble. One who retreats may simply be trying to make sense of what their heart whispered louder than expected. Do not chase them. Let them walk their silence. Let them find their stillness. The fourth sign, discomfort with praise. Praise is light, but for those who carry hidden affection, light can burn. This is another paradox of the human heart. We crave recognition, yet sometimes fear it. Once, the traveler complimented the monk's wisdom during evening tea. Instead of smiling, the monk tensed. He looked away, mumbled something, and changed the subject. The fourth sign is a discomfort with your appreciation. Why? Because each kind word threatens to melt the armor. When someone secretly admires you, your praise stirs both joy and fear. It pushes them closer to their own truth, the very truth they strive to deny. Buddhist psychology explains this as a conflict between manas, ego mind, and citta, heart mind. The ego wants control. The heart wants connection. Your praise triggers the heart, and the ego resists. It is not rejection. It is resistance. Praise opens the door they keep trying to shut. Modern psychology confirms that reactions to compliments often relate to self-esteem and vulnerability. People hiding their emotions may feel your praise increases the risk of discovery, or they may feel unworthy of your appreciation. How to recognize this sign? Notice the person who becomes uncomfortable, changes the subject, or disproportionately deflects your compliments. Someone who can accept praise from others but seems unable to handle it when it comes from you. Someone who might blush, stammer, or even become slightly irritated when you express appreciation. When you recognize this sign, respond with subtlety. Don't stop complimenting them entirely, but consider a more indirect approach. Praise their work or actions rather than personal qualities. Give them space to process their emotions without pressure. Zen teaches, do not praise too loudly those who carry love in silence. Let them unfold like lotus in the morning, not forced but invited by warmth. The fifth sign, how they speak about you to others. Sometimes, truth lies not in what is said to you, but in what is said about you. This is one of the most subtle signs, but also one of the most reliable. One evening as the traveler helped in the garden, another monk commented, "You seem to have found a favorite student." The monk, startled, replied too quickly, "It's nothing. I help all who come." But later, the same monk was overheard saying to another, "That traveler, they carry peace with them. There's something rare." This is the fifth sign, indirect confession. One who fights feelings will rarely speak directly to you, but listen to their words when you're not in the room. You will hear gentle admiration cloaked in casual words, or see a sudden defense if anyone critiques you. Zen says the truth is often whispered in places where the subject cannot hear. Hidden feelings often need a secret outlet. If not spoken to you, they escape through conversations with others. Modern psychology calls this indirect disclosure, a way to share emotions without facing direct consequences. Research shows we often feel safer sharing our true feelings with a third party. How to recognize this sign? This is the hardest sign to spot because, by definition, it happens when you're not present. But sometimes, you might hear from mutual friends or colleagues about how someone speaks about you. If there's a significant difference between how they interact with you directly and how they talk about you to others, this might be the sign. When you recognize this sign, respond by respecting boundaries. Don't confront them with what you've heard, as this might make them feel betrayed or invaded. Instead, use this information to understand them better and perhaps create safer opportunities for them to share those feelings directly when they're ready. Buddhism teaches, a mind full of love cannot remain hidden forever. When someone speaks kindly about you behind closed doors, their truth leaks through even the walls they built. The sixth sign, emotional mirroring. Zen teaches the outer world reflects the inner one. In relationships, this can manifest as a subtle dance of reflected emotions. Whenever the traveler looked tired, the monk seemed more restless. When the traveler smiled, the monk's silence turned gentle. This is the sixth sign, emotional mirroring. One who silently loves often absorbs your emotional state. Without intending to, they reflect your moods, your expressions, your shifts. This mirroring is not imitation. It is resonance. The monk, though silent, walked in tune with the traveler's emotions. He responded not with words, but with subtle synchrony. Buddhism speaks of interbeing, the notion that no being exists alone. The one who resonates with your joy and shares your sadness without being told reveals a heart already tied to yours. Modern science calls this emotional synchronization, facilitated through mirror neurons in the brain. Research shows we automatically mirror the emotions of those we're deeply connected to, often unconsciously. How to recognize this sign? Notice the person who seems to catch your moods without explanation. Someone who becomes sad when you're sad, happy when you're happy, even when they don't know the reason behind your emotion. Someone who might shift their energy or behavior to match yours, like one string vibrating with another. When you recognize this sign, respond with awareness. Notice this emotional resonance and acknowledge it as a sign of deep connection. You might experiment by deliberately shifting your energy and seeing if they respond. But do this with compassion, not manipulation. Remember, this is interbeing, a core Buddhist idea that no self exists alone. All things enter are reflection. When someone mirrors your sadness, your joy, your fatigue, it is because the thread between you is already woven. You move together even in silence. The seventh sign, unexplained presence. Perhaps the most invisible sign of all, but to the eye of awareness, the clearest. The traveler once wandered the meditation grounds long after dusk. Few remained. Yet behind the far temple, a shadow passed. The monk had followed, not to speak, not to intrude, but simply to remain nearby. Presence without purpose, closeness without conversation. These are the last whispers of a hidden bond. The seventh sign is quiet presence. Not the loud kind, not the frequent kind, but the kind that appears without needing a reason. When you're ill, when you're alone, when you're not even aware. Zen calls this ma, the space between form. The space in which truth lingers silently, faithfully. Presence like this is not accidental. It is the soul's way of saying, I'm near though I cannot explain why. Modern psychology calls this approach behavior, a fundamental expression of attachment and attraction. Research shows we naturally seek to be near those we have deep feelings for, even when we don't acknowledge those feelings to ourselves. How to recognize this sign? Notice the person who seems to appear in your life without clear reason. Someone who chooses to sit near you in a room full of empty chairs. Someone who walks the same path as you though it's not the shortest route. Someone who shows up in places you frequent, creating coincidental meetings that seem too frequent to be just chance. When you recognize this sign, respond with mindful presence. Acknowledge their presence without pressuring or pointing it out. Allow this space to exist between you, a space where truth can gradually bloom. Don't rush to fill it with words or demands. Zen masters say, the truest presence needs no reason. It simply is. Like the moon that follows no one but is always there. Love when resisted becomes a silent dance of signs. The gaze that retreats, the kindness that conceals, the distance after closeness, the discomfort with praise. The indirect words, the emotional mirroring, and the unexplained presence, each one a lantern in the fog of the heart. Zen does not teach us to chase these signs. It teaches us to witness them. For the truth of others cannot be forced into light. It must rise gently when its time is right. Buddhism reminds, let go of attachment, but not of awareness. If someone secretly fights their feelings for you, offer stillness, not pressure. Offer presence, not probing. For a heart at war seeks peace, not questions. Sometimes the greatest love is the patience to wait beside someone until they are ready to lay down their armor. And sometimes the most sacred sign of love is the one that goes unspoken, the inner landscape of silent affection. In the forest of human emotion, those who fight their feelings walk paths others cannot see. Their steps are cautious, their eyes ever alert, not because of danger around them, but because of the wildfire burning within. To understand someone who resists their feelings, one must not approach with expectation, but with mindfulness. The teachings of Zen do not seek to expose emotion, but to accept its movement like the wind. Sometimes gentle, sometimes fierce, sometimes barely a whisper. Each of the 7 signs is a manifestation of dukkha, the inner restlessness of the unenlightened mind. When love arises but is feared, the mind clings to certainty and comfort, refusing the unknown path the heart seeks to travel. This is suffering not from lack of love, but from fear of what love demands. Surrender. I remember the story of May, a woman who recognized all 7 signs from her longtime friend. Instead of forcing a confession or rushing things, she simply created a safe space. For 6 months, she patiently witnessed his silent struggle, responding to each sign with understanding and non-judgment. One day, without warning, he sat beside her and said, I think I'm ready to talk about what I feel. Not pressure, but patience had opened the door. The Buddha taught that all things arise when conditions are right. Love too has its season. Sometimes that season is winter, where feelings lie dormant beneath frozen ground. But spring always follows. If you recognize these signs in someone, offer them the greatest gift, space to feel without pressure, time to decide without fear, and the knowledge that whatever they choose, your compassion remains. For in the garden of human connection, the most beautiful flowers are those that bloom not because they are forced, but because they are ready. And in that readiness lies the seed of true love, not possession, not demand, but the freedom to choose connection over fear. If this journey through the subtle signs of hidden feelings has brought you insight, I invite you to go deeper. I've created a 7-day mindful relationship awareness practice, a step-by-step guide to developing your ability to recognize and respond to subtle signs in your relationships. Each day focuses on a different sign, with practical exercises and reflections to enhance your awareness. You can also download my free ebook, The Silent Language of Affection, where I explore more deeply how Zen and Buddhist philosophy can help us understand and navigate complex emotions in modern relationships. The link is in the description below. I'd love to hear your experience. Have you recognized any of these signs in your life? How did you respond? Share your story in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, you might be interested in other videos in the series on Zen and relationships, including The Art of Letting Go, Zen Lessons on Non-Attached Love, and the 4 Elements of True Love according to Buddhism. Subscribe to the channel for more content on applying ancient wisdom to modern life. And remember, in a world of quick communication and shallow connections, the ability to read the silent language of emotion is a precious and rare skill. Until next time, may you walk with awareness, speak with kindness, and love with freedom.